best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Shaun and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack news. Sack news.
Radio.
Sack news. Sack news.
Radio.
Sack.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
Into the silo.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Wow, is it already May 10th there, BZ?
It is May 10th, the year of our Lord 2017.
And for those of us who are watching, we're actually trying the YouTube out again, giving it a shot, and I'm trying to get things adjusted. So just, bear with me a little bit as we do that, okay?
Okay, this is me bearing.
Of course, that's the bloviating Zeppelin.
And off to my right is
Nowhere to
no
be found.
one.
Nowhere to be found.
Absolutely no one.
I don't even want to show the picture of the empty chair because it's embarrassing.
Right, it is.
Normally, even on my view on camera, you'd be able to see his nose, like the end of it.
Oh, well,
protruding
it
back
would be
behind me.
well into the frame, would it not?
I'd have to duck it all night. Like
Yeah,
it would, yeah. It's a big deal. But for some reason tonight,
Yeah, I get that. Big deal. I get it.
but for some reason tonight, no, he couldn't join us yet again.
So I have to tell you a story, and if you need some time to do some things, I'll tell everyone a story
Go for it.
from last night if you have to tweak a few things.
Yeah, because I don't know, and I don't even have the chat room up yet because I'm working on this. But
Well, that's okay. I'm in chat.
Okay.
By the way, in chat, it looks like we have HP Pundit. We've got Dan Butcher. Hey, look, Bloviating Zeppelin is in there.
Oh,
No
look
shot.
at that! Look at that!
Yeah, Mike is in there, and one viewer who shall remain masked because the philosophy is not to unmask people at the Sackheads Radio Show. Welcome to Mike. And so, hey, got a question for you, though, before I regale people with the tale, so to speak.
Go ahead, sir.
If they want to watch live on television,
Yes.
where would they go to find that?
YouTube. If you want to go to our YouTube channel, it's SHR Media on YouTube.
Okay,
And,
I didn't know we had a channel.
We do. Something we tried to kind of light up a few months ago. It didn't. It just wasn't working out so hot with our old setup, and we had to make some adjustments and some changes, which we obviously did, which is great. But if you go right now to YouTube and then just search SHR Media, which you can subscribe to it, and I'm looking at it. It's working. It's somehow working. Damn it.
Hey, HP Pundit in chat says, nice green shirt, Shaun. So, I can only conclude, son of a bitch, it's working.
Son of beeswax. No, it appears to be working. So
Okay, another
we'll go with
question
that.
for you while you are diligently working over there.
Yes, sir.
Because obviously I can't watch right now. I'm doing other things. You're doing other things over there. Can I go back to the YouTube channel, and will it keep it so that I can look at it kind of like a podcast, only I'll be, watching and listening after the event occurs?
Yes,
Okay.
it will. It should stay up
'Cause
there forever.
I'm going to be curious just how many lenses I do break tonight.
Right. So that one we got for you actually has a very protective coating on it.
Good. So if I spit at it, for example, if I hurl phlegm, shall we say, no problem.
Almost immediately.
Okay.
No problem. But what we did is, you know how they used to have to put the Vaseline on certain lenses back in the day?
Right, to give you that sort of foggy
I used gasoline.
look. Oh, okay.
And the plan was, if all goes to hell, I can light the bastard up.
Nice.
So that's where we're going with that. So I don't know how the sound is so far. And if the guys in the chat room actually want to help us out with that, that would be awesome. But yeah, Yeah, we're getting it up and going, and I'm actually looking at it as we speak. And
Well, Guff Dog says, hi, kids, so welcome to golf. He's in chat. And Dan says, proof that Shaun has the perfect face for radio.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, zing, ow.
Here, we'll do this.
Bing, bang, boom. Hey,
that
if
better?
I'd known that we were going to do this, I would have brought my cool, round, blue Aussie sunglasses.
Well-
because I've got a wonderful set of sunglasses that look just like what Ozzy wears.
But BZ,
But if only I'd known.
you know the sackheads, right? You know how we operate. I wasn't
Spontaneous.
I was not going to give you. I was not going to give you any sort of pre-warning. There's no way that was going to happen. No damn way in hell. I just
Okay.
couldn't do it.
Well, that's true. That's true.
He mentioned the green shirt. What he doesn't mention is it's a green St. Patrick's Day Red Sox shirt. Because I'm a true fan, and only true fans have that. So I just
And I have a shirt that has absolutely nothing on it except a
At
pocket.
National University, it's not just
you know what you do have though, and I appreciate very much. Is that a little bit of dinner left over on it, on the right side?
Hey. Hey, look, HP Pundit, Dan has put, he's put the link in for the Sackheads Radio. Dan, thank you very much. That was very kind of you.
Well, and if you go to our shrmedia.com and click on the Sackheads for today, 5/10/17, I actually just added the YouTube feed so you can watch it there as well. So it's up and running.
Cool, very cool.
It is up and running.
You know, I had absolutely no indication from you last week that you were going to make this work tonight.
Yes.
So again, faces made for radio and certainly not for video or TV. But I'll tell you what, while you're busy doing whatever it is that you're going to be doing over there,
Will you regale us?
let me tell you a tale of grief and woe from last night,
Grief and woe.
which I haven't told anyone. I wrote about it in the blog, but most people didn't read that, I bet. So here's what happened. At the beginning of the show, I was a little bit discombobulated, if you will, and it took me a while to get into the running of the show, so to speak, because here's what happened with the new laptop right over there, right in front of you. I've always thought, because it happened to me twice now, that the older laptop crashed, and when it crashes, the whole show goes goodbye, you have to start, completely rebooted, etc. That takes it anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm thinking, we've got a new laptop. This is going to be great. Until the laptop, at 7 minutes before the start of the show, says, you have new updates.
Oh, no.
I'm restarting right now. Boom, done. So all the login that I had done into Spreaker, gone. So then I'm waiting for it to reboot. It finally reboots. It reboots at 7:59. So then, how I have, let's see, last night I had 24 audio cuts that I was slated to play. Half of them, 12 of them, I preloaded on that computer right there. So, half of my audio cuts are gone because I'm moving between screens and I'm figuring out I've got some on this computer, this is my laptop, and I've got half of them over there. So, what do? Thank God I thought of this before. I had set up some other things. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you wondered why last night I played the 7-minute Patton speech from the beginning of the movie Patton, and I always enjoyed, I have to say, I really enjoyed that speech from George C. Scott.
It's a great speech.
It's a
there's no
great
doubt.
speech,
There's no
but
doubt.
I was hustling my arse off trying to capture all the various sound bits that I'd lost in that computer over there after it restarted and blew all my crap away.
Oh, BZ.
So then when that stopped and it was time to light up the show, it was a little difficult to get things rolling, but after about 5 or 10 minutes, I finally did. But by God, like the show must go on, I didn't let anybody know what was going on, except now I can laugh at it. Last night, at this same time, I was not a laughing motherfucker at all.
Well, no, you know,
It was not humorous.
I'll tell you, we've dealt with this numerous times. Once you are you have your setup, right? You have everything exactly kind of where you want to be, and you're about to groove. And we did this with the old system. This happened to Clint and I a billion times. We used to blame the CIA.
There you go. Perfect.
But yeah, there's nothing worse as you get a show. And actually, Danny Butcher dealt with this, I think, earlier today, too. There's nothing worse than getting your show up, ready to go, rocking and rolling, and have it all crash.
Everything, right?
And I want to talk a little bit about Microsoft and some damn updates. Because I get it. I totally get it. They have to update it. That's
right,
just the way
I get
is.
it. But this last night, normally it'll say, would you like to update now? Would you like to restart later? That choice was not given to me.
Right.
And just boom, it restarted. So on this Windows 10, all I did for 6 minutes, sweating bullets, is watch that little round circle and those little round balls go fruit, 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 as the thing's trying to restart.
Little round balls. I thought we were talking about. Oh, you're still. Oh, I get
Right,
you. Right.
yeah.
Right.
So thank you, Windows 10. Thank you for your updates. Really appreciate it.
Well, and
Not.
so I had a friend of mine contact me this week. They had a 3-year-old computer that was having some problems, and I know minimal about computers. A couple years ago, I was pretty decent with it, and then I fell off the train. Right. But it had some minimum computer ability. So they called me and said, hey, I got to use this laptop for a bunch of things. I haven't used it in a few years. Help me out, essentially. So we did a master reset, the whole 9 yards, plugged it in. They said the thing's only a couple years old. 119 updates. After you did the master reset, it was 119 updates that had to be done. Took all afternoon, from what I understand.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Afternoon.
that had to be a hell of a long time.
Oh, gosh. So it still happens even when the computer's 3 years old. It doesn't matter if it's brand new at 3 years old. And Windows, I understand why they have to do what they have to do. I totally get it. But it's a pain in the arse sometimes.
Well, it's like timing is everything, and of course, this was about the least fortuitous timing whatsoever, because in radio, it's not like you're sitting in front of, a standard analog board. All the stuff when I was in radio in California, all the stuff was made by Sparta. It was a Sparta board, Sparta carts, Sparta turntables.
And that's all they had.
And that everything was analog, so you didn't have to worry about computers. If you have that thing go down, or this laptop right here, you're toast.
Yep.
You're SOL.
Done. Totally done. Totally done. So I see Dave in the chat room says you can give people options for updates. Listen, I agree. You can give that option, and some of that stuff you can hold back and you can put off and everything. But a lot of the reason why they do the options or the updates without option is quite simply there's a security breach issue.
I understand the reasons.
And if
for
you
these.
read your end user license agreement on all this stuff,
Right, everyone reads their EULA. Right?
You don't
Sure.
you don't own the software. You have access
You
to
don't own
it.
cat piss.
Yes. No part of this is yours, right? Microsoft owns it. Same thing with Apple. Apple owns it. They just give you the ability to use it however you want, but if they need to get into it, they do. And that's part of your EULA. It is. It's part of the end user license agreement. We've talked about that a couple times. It's sad, but it's true. Sad, but true. Funny story, and I just really want to sum up a story of douchebaggery I saw on my way here today, because it is the
I want to hear that.
it is the ultimate, like, could you be any more of an asshole dude story. So I'm driving here and I get off up the road here on Stockton Boulevard to grab a coffee. California, and I don't know if other places, but in California, one of the big things is bicycle riding, right? Everybody rides a bike around here. It's a big thing, and not just for sports and competition. People ride bikes just to get from A to B.
Right, I've seen geckos riding bikes.
Right, a lot of the transients out here have bikes. They may not have
They
a dollar in
all
their
have
pocket, but they
bikes.
all
Bikes
have
and
bikes.
carts and bikes.
Right, and they have a card on the back, and that's how they, whatever. So I saw this douchebag on my way here. In California, especially in Sacramento area, I've seen a lot of these, they call them ghost bikes. You know what I'm talking about, I think. If somebody is on a bike and they get hit by a car or die in an area, much like you see highway memorials, they'll take a bike, they'll completely spray it totally white,
Okay,
and they
I've
call
seen
it a
those.
ghost bike. They
All
do
right.
it to memorialize that one person,
Okay.
right?
I've seen them. I didn't know they were called ghost bikes.
So, but usually if you see one chained to a fence, chained to a wall, it means somebody died at that location, and they paint it white top to bottom. I saw a douchebag tweaker today. I'm guessing he's a tweaker just, based on the fact that
He was tweakish.
He looked like a tweaker. 2 different size tires on the bike. It was like a 10-speed bike.
Okay.
He had bent the front fork out just to get enough of that front tire in and have it work on a ghost bike. So he stole a bike to memorialize a dead person. It was strolling up and down
That bastard.
Stockton Boulevard in Sacramento. Yeah. Yeah. And I said, if this doesn't sum up Sacramento, I don't know what the hell does.
That is rampant douchebaggery if ever I heard of it.
Really? I agree. Wholeheartedly. I just got a text from the person I was helping. It took a total of 8 hours for all those updates to go in.
Holy crap.
Yep, that's technology, baby. That is
You gotta
technology.
love it. Well, we got a lot of people in chat now. We've got Dan. Dan is in chat. Look, it's Sackhead Shaun.
Hey.
Golf Dogs, we got Mike, and back from his lengthy vacation is the unpleasant blind guy who isn't, Dave Milner. So he's been gone for quite a while. My understanding is that he went to Aruba, and then he went to Gibraltar, and then he went to a couple of very nice islands in the Caribbean.
And when you mentioned this to me earlier, I knew he was on vacation. I didn't
Right.
know where. I couldn't believe that you said he just went to see the sights. Now, I'll tell you what, BZ. Low is low, but come on. Come on. Really?
Dave,
Dave, I'm sorry. I don't know why.
you
he
know
does
I
this.
love you.
I don't know why he does this, Dave. I'm trying to control him. I'm trying really hard, Dave.
But anyway, welcome back, Dave, because I see that you have returned from vacation, obviously in one piece. And, Dave, while he was out, I forgot to tell you, Ken and Dave had been chatting for quite some time. And Ken, I think, finally convinced Dave to go out and purchase the same kind of an automobile that Ken does. So
The
Dave,
Jalopy?
no.
Oh.
Dave now has a 2017 Rolls-Royce Phantom. So obviously he'd been speaking to Ken for quite some time because Ken has a 2016.
He does.
I think.
And
So Dave, if you can put some of those photographs of your car on Twitter, for example, I'd love to see them.
Agador in the chat, Dave in the chat room says only 2 weeks, but hey, I had to check out the chicks. I love to see them.
Well, the cool thing about that is that when he says "see," what Dave means is see. See them.
Well, exactly. So when you're vision impaired, right? He could use his cane, or it has to be tactile.
Certainly.
And what a great excuse!
Which is perfectly reasonable, and it gives you great license. See, Dave says in chat, Mark, you know it, that Bentley was so ghetto. See, and again, Dave, it's like I've said, the Bentley was nice, that Bentley Continental Speed that you had, but it was a smaller car, it was a 5,000-pound car, so it is a little bit heavy and it went really fast, but you needed the luxury, Dave, and I'm glad to see that you did, that Ken convinced you, and you updated.
I love
Good
the
for
fact
you.
that he calls it grade 4 Braille. I don't know what grade anything Braille is, but, it's just comical to me that it's grade 4. So welcome back to Dave, and if you want to jump in the chat room, shrmedia.com, click on live broadcast and jump right in the chat right there. Also, if you want to watch the YouTube, or actually if you go to the first posting for SHR Media, Sackheads 51017, you can get all of it right there. Let's get into a topic. We get 10 minutes, and seeing how Big Nose is in here, he can't boss us around. Kamala Harris for president. Now, 2 things happened when I said that, BZ. Number 1, I got to chill up my spine.
That's right. Number 2, just a little bit of bile kind of came up your throat.
Absolutely.
And it scorched and it burned.
It was like one of...
Yeah, exactly. Back down.
Yeah. Have you ever seen roadkill that's like 2.5 days old, and you like have to walk by it and you get that really good smell.
Right, and with that, you smell it before you actually see it.
Yeah, and it just gets worse as you get closer. You can't imagine.
Right, it's
how.
like a good homicide scene in the summertime in an apartment that's been locked for a week.
6th, 7th floor, no air conditioning,
Right.
something lovely like that. That's the reaction.
Don't think I haven't been to those. Those are just so tasty.
Yeah.
Nothing better.
So I've heard. So Kamala Harris for president. They're all talking about it for 2020.
The surprising, well, actually not surprising. Everything in politics is cyclical. Everything in life is cyclical. What you've seen before goes away and it all comes around again. So depending on the reaction to Trump, et cetera, depending on how well the economy goes and if he can pull it out and continue to actually do something with the nation, 2020, she's already setting herself up right now. And if there's some way, if there's some person that she's a twofer, obviously, in terms of the leftists.
If you're the Democrats, you've already played this out a little bit in the past, in
Oh, sure.
2008, right? So now all you do is you're getting the female portion. You're getting the fact that she's a first-term senator. They will play that up.
Oh, hell yes.
So she knows enough about politics, but she's not an insider. That's how they're going to roll that out.
Certainly, you can see that already playing out.
Obviously, she's a black female, so they will play that up to the best of their ability as well.
Well, and she has a history. I mean, she's done all the necessary requisite stair-stepping to get to be where she is. But she pissed me off from the very beginning when she was the DA in the city and county of San Francisco. She cut me off when she decided that she was not going to prosecute a cop killer, an SFPD cop killer, and she was not going to go for the death penalty on that. That told me all I needed to know about her at that time.
Well, and BZ, you look at her as Attorney General in the state of California.
Well, yes, and that was now having done that, stepped into the district attorney's office in San Francisco. It made perfect sense because it's a massive leftist state. It made perfect sense for her to step into the Attorney General for the state of California. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely wonderful. And then, of course, the fortuitous vacuum occurred when, we've got two state senators in California, both women, both incredibly, horribly, terribly leftist pieces of human flotsam.
Garbage.
Dianne Feinstein is still here, of course, but Barbara Boxer, Babs,
Frankenstein,
left. So with that space, in steps
Kamala.
Good friend Kamala Harris. So she has the requisite stair-stepping necessary to say, I've paid my dues, I've been a fighter for the law, I've fought for the underprivileged.
The little people.
I've screwed over as many cops as I can.
The little people. It's all about the little
Certainly
people.
it is, and the children.
And the children.
And so
and nobody else.
She's made the perfect pattern to be considered for president because unlike Barack Obama, who simply came out of nowhere and made it into Mr. Voting Present Senator and then came out of left field, literally left field somewhere, Kamala Harris actually has some background to her. Now, she's all leftist, of course. There is no right in her at all. But they're saying
there is nothing right with her, and there is nothing right in her. She is
correct.
I'll tell you right now, 2020 is going to be her and Cory Booker. I think that's going to be the ticket in 2020. I really believe that.
Well, the funny thing is, you and I both know that the Democrats. Here's the funny thing: Hillary Clinton still thinks she has a chance that anyone is going to even remotely consider voting for her. She's dead. She's gone. The Clintons are yesterday. And her last election absolutely proved it. Still, 6 months after the election, she and the Democrats cannot put their arms around the fact that they lost. And yet, when Hillary Clinton said, I take all responsibility for this, in fact, she took zero responsibility for that at all, and said that her loss was due to, and this ties into the next topic we're going to go to after the break, I'm sure, she said it was James Comey's fault, and female misogyny.
Yes. Yes. That's my favorite part is the female misogyny. I don't understand.
So women that are listening to us all across the fruited plain, live,
9 years.
in chat, in podcast.
All 5 years.
Yes, all 5 years. Are you not offended that she thinks that basically you're too stupid to walk into a voting booth? Because if you didn't vote along with her, you're a misogynist. Plain and simple.
Well, and it's amazing. You know, we talked about. I was on the air with Danny Butcher yesterday on his show in the afternoon, and we were talking about the leftist approach now to politics, and how very, very, very Nazi-like it's become. And people go, "Oh, you're just throwing out the word," but no.
No, I agree. It's very,
they shame
very
people
true.
into voting. You have Antifa and BAMF and all these other groups that once you don't agree with their voting, they're either going to shut down your free speech or they're going to become violent.
They will literally
from
become
things.
violent.
You know, we've seen voter intimidation in the past by the left, Black Panthers group, all these other people. They are Antifa, BAMF, all these groups. They're the new brown shirts. They really are. It's political intimidation. It's all of those different things. And we've seen this before. And I know we've seen that in the 60s and late 50s, there was some of that. But I hate to tell you, when they pick on one group and try to tell everyone that they're the devil and that they must be wiped off the face of the planet, which we're actually hearing Democrats start to say now more and more about conservatives and Christians and other groups as well. But essentially, if you're not with us, you're against us. You look at what they've done in Berkeley and other places. When a conservative is coming to speak, they light it on fire. They make it violent. They make it nasty so people will not come out and support. They don't want to have the conversation with the other side. They want to shut it down completely.
Well, and the leftist meme is still that despite all of that, it's the conservatives and the people on the right that are violent. Really? Prove it to me. Show me all the right-wing violence and riots that have occurred. The people that are doing this now, Antifa, they're nothing. They're not doing it for a point. They're simply anarchists.
Yes.
They're anarchists, plain and simple. They have no sense of history. They don't know what the brown shirts were. They have no idea about the black shirts and about Antifa and where it came from. It came from the beer hall putsch in 1939 in Hitler's Germany. Hitler was attempting to get power. The brown shirts were the true fascists. The people that were anti-fascists, which is where Antifa gets its name, they were the people wearing the black shirts, and they've grabbed that name and they've hijacked the name and they've hijacked history when in fact the black shirts today are the brown shirts, just like you said, of yesterday.
Yep.
Of 1939.
And I got flack for those comments yesterday. I've gotten flack for those comments before. But the parallel, history repeats itself, and the parallels that you can draw are absolutely amazing.
That's why I say most everything in life is circular. And it's coming around again.
It most certainly is. It most certainly is. Hey, we're up against a break.
What a
30
shock.
minutes, just like that,
That's right.
baby.
Never to be relived again.
When we come back,
hey, the lava lamp is doing really strange things right there.
BZ is going to tell us about the medication he took just before we went on the air. And we're going to discuss probably one of the biggest removal of office so far today for the Trump administration. All that and more right here on the SHR Media Network. You listen to the Sackheads Radio Show, folks.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Shaun from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com. And maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Mim from Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds. Join your friends from SHR Media at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada, July 19th through the 22nd for 3 amazing days of liberty-oriented discussion, investment advice, and the Anthem Film Festival. It's our big 10th anniversary, featuring keynote speaker William Shatner and Freedom Fest favorites, including Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Lee Edwards, David Boaz, Doug Casey, Dinesh D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Grover Norquist, Peter Schiff, and many more. Don't miss out. Register at freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all-caps code SHR Media.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Shaun, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet. Via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So,
I got a question before we actually start getting into serious stuff.
Oh.
Can you see this camera?
Yeah, right now.
Okay. And can that camera see this lava lamp?
Unfortunately, yes. It looks very odd right now.
I was going to say, what?
It looks.
What does this look like? I know what I think it looks like.
You know what? It's funny. You know what I thought it looked like immediately especially through the camera feed.
Okay.
Is something out of the movie Alien.
Bingo. That's what I was thinking. Yes, exactly.
I don't know why. I immediately thought of Alien.
It looks like something that would be in a movie where you've got some kind of a creature in a test tube, and it's not quite pulsing with life yet, but it'll soon be there.
I hope not.
Well, here's the deal. I will reveal a trade secret. Every show, we have to turn the lava lamp on because the people who otherwise occupy this office when we're not here turn it off.
Right.
So, when I get here, if you get here early, whoever gets here first, we turn the lava lamp on.
The lava lamp.
And by the time the show is about halfway, only then does it kind of start to do really cool things. So it's in the progenesis phase right now. So it just looks it looks weird. I don't know. See, because I can't see the video, but just from me looking at this right here, boy, it looks.
Yeah,
it looks creepy.
And I hate to say it, and if you watch on the YouTube, you can see it right now. I've had other people chime in through different methods of messaging me and saying that it looks like different parts of anatomy.
Yes, I can understand that.
Which actually, the funny part is, if you just lean your head a little bit to the right, yeah, you know what, we won't play that on video. Let's move right along to Comey.
Okay, here we go.
But if you want to see it, it's on the YouTube channel, if you want to be just as disgusted as I am.
Hey, in chat, we've got guest 6719.
Yep, adding guests.
I love 6719. 6719, by the way, is a much better person than 6718.
Well, 6718 was kind of an ass.
Yeah, they had their issues.
Yeah.
But 6719 being in chat right now, welcome. I say that. There's one viewer.
6718 was actually a communist, and now in California, they can get state jobs. So,
good point.
Or they're trying to, anyways. I'm just saying. So 6719, thank you for filling that void of 18 and really making our life a lot better.
Ziggy Mom is in here. This is a new individual.
I know.
Is Ziggy Mom?
Iggy Mom has been listening to us on and off for years now.
Really? Okay.
Back to our Blog Talk days.
Well, welcome. This is the first time I believe that I've seen.
She hasn't been in chat in a while, but yeah, no.
Okay. Well, good. Good. I'm glad to see her here.
And follows SHR Media and has always been supportive of our shows. And Mike, obviously, and some other great people. Old Number Deuce is in the chat room, HP Pundit, so I'm excited about that as well.
Mike and I talked comic books last week.
I heard.
For a half hour, it was BZ's Comic Chat.
You know what, BZ, that's what I enjoy about your show, is it's never the same every week.
Time for a plug. I'm having Pat Dollard come back on the show tomorrow night. And Pat is, he's not a shy child. And he'll tell you pretty much what he thinks. And he and I are going to discuss shock of shocks, Trump and Comey. And my guess would be that he might have some interesting things to say.
Well,
so
Pat's an interesting guy.
What a life. If you haven't, go back to the BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
Like your second show, right?
On
or your
Spreaker.
first?
No, it was about my fifth or sixth show. And go look for the one that talks about Pat Dollard and listen to it. Talk about a unique individual. It's that dude.
Yeah. No, I know who Pat is really, really well. I definitely enjoy Pat. I like Pat. He's definitely one of those guys that I don't always necessarily agree with everything that comes out of his mouth.
I don't. But I'll tell you
his
what.
Arguments.
I love the way he speaks. He speaks from the heart. I value, like I said, in every interview that I do, I always say that I value honesty and clarity. And there's no hidden agenda in this dude at all. He says what he thinks, and he means what he says.
Yeah, no, and he's vibrant about it, too.
And the other thing that was really cool is I sent him a message, and just, today's Wednesday, the show's tomorrow. I said, hey, just on the off chance, would you mind? And then, boom, like 30 seconds later, he says, sure, I'll do it.
That's
cool.
Awesome. Even better, right? It's good to have a response.
Thank you. That was grand.
Oh, let's see. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, Comey.
Oh, you mean the elephant not in the room?
Let's talk about the elephant in the unemployment line, who's probably already filling out the online application at the Clinton Foundation. First and foremost, I sent out a tweet yesterday within the first hour of the announcement. I said, I will bet $50 that Hoomer and Hill Dog are chatting their lawyers up something fierce right now. Like fierce.
Well, yeah. And it also makes me wonder, what is Jeff Sessions doing right now? And how much hand-rubbing is he doing? The corollary to that is Comey is supposed to testify tomorrow in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Now he's just civilian number one.
Yeah, but he can still be held accountable for his time as FBI director.
But what?
It does change some things.
Yes. It makes me wonder, so what is he going to say?
But I wonder if the number two guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
McCabe. McCabe has some serious issues himself.
Right. But he's also not as prepared as Comey was for this, so I wonder if it won't cause him to get a little flustered. So it's going to be interesting to see. First of all, let's discuss the firing. Did you see the letter?
Yes, I did. It was blunt and to the point. There were many issues that I think the Democrats were making on this that are completely specious.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll get into that.
And the
letter was curt, and everyone is saying that Trump, just like the travel ban, should have handled this in a much better fashion. To which I respond, shut the hell up. Trump did this because I believe he wanted to make a point.
Oh, yeah. Well, and here's the thing. So I talked about the timing of it all, right? And somebody said, why didn't he do it the first week? Why did he do? He had to set up a couple things. First of all, you had to get Sessions in there, and Sessions had to actually start reviewing his actions as the FBI director, right? He's the head guy. That's who Comey answers to.
And I honestly, this may seem really strange for me to say, I honestly think Trump wanted to give Comey a chance.
Yeah, well, and he knew if he went in and chopped him right away, the political backlash would be enormous. And
I don't think Trump even considered that. I think he was thinking, I'm just going to give him a chance.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm thinking that he needed time. He needed time to have it evaluated by his AG.
And there was so much going on. Yep.
You have that. You have to start, if he is going to go, or the other thing you have to do too is start speaking to the people in the FBI and find out how completely dissatisfied they are with their boss.
The tales I could tell you.
Oh, I know that, but I'm almost positive that was done as well. You have that going on. He's also going to start identifying a potential replacement and probably start getting that ball rolling a little bit. So I think he knew it was coming. He just wanted to, hey, listen, I got to get through all of my appointees. I got to get settled. I got to get the first 100 days out of the way. Once Sessions is in there, the amount of damage that he can do becomes minimalized, so to speak. And then finally he's like, all right, it's time to pull the trigger. Listen, he finally gave the Democrats what they wanted 5 months ago.
Why, he did?
That's what they were all begging for, right? Fire Comey, fire him. He's going to go. He fucked the election up. Blah, 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 blah. They want to point to the connection with the Russians, which it's amazing to hear a group of people who 4 years ago were hailing the Russians and talking about what great relationships. Less than a year ago, they were voting for a woman that sold a majority of our uranium dump to them via her foundation. The woman with the reset button, Mitt Romney identifying them as the number one geopolitical threat, 8 years ago? And then getting laughed out of the room. And then all of a sudden, they are who they say they are. You look at what happened with Syria and some other things. I don't see the connection being an issue. And I think it's just, they're just pissing into the wind, hoping something's going to blow back. That's all I can say at this point about the Democrats.
Well, here's the letter. Here's the specific letter that came out, Memorandum for the Attorney General from Rod J. Rosenstein. Now, people who don't know, FBI directors answer to the Assistant Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General. They don't answer directly to whomever the Attorney General is at the time. In other words, this current Deputy Attorney General is an individual named Rod Rosenstein, and it's his job to monitor and to actually interact day to day, if necessary, with the FBI director. This memorandum came out, and it's from Rod Rosenstein, Deputy Attorney General, subject, Restoring Public Confidence in the FBI. So right off the bat, in that subject line, you have the entire issue with what the Deputy Attorney General thinks is with Director Comey. Mm-hmm. He says it up front in the subject line. And he reads, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has long been regarded as our nation's premier federal investigative agency. Over the past year, however, the FBI's reputation and credibility have suffered substantial damage, and it has affected the entire Department of Justice. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. This is my comment now. The same thing he did with Hillary Clinton, he just did with Huma Abedin.
Yes.
Ted Cruz tore him a new arsehole, essentially, if you happen to see that particular interplay in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And Ted Cruz said that any first-year attorney knows that ignorance of the law is no excuse. Mens rea. Plus,
very much so.
Huma Abedin, who gets to carry all of these things, she's been vetted, she has a clearance, I had a clearance, and when you do that, you sign certain pieces of paper that say that you are aware of how you absolutely must handle secure, classified information, no matter the classified information, no matter the type. She knew what she was doing, and yet again, Director Comey concludes that there's nothing there to see.
Well, and that's the thing that gets me. The first go around with her emails and stuff like that, fine. But upon the reopening, upon the Wiener computer, Carlos Danger sticking his junk in once again and getting himself in trouble. By the way, everyone, just so you remember, Huma's husband was still sending nude pics of himself to 15-year-old girls. I just want that to be remembered.
You're absolutely right.
I don't care what adults do, but that's just gross. Either way. And that's how this investigation came back to light. They got a call from the NYPD. NYPD says, oh, by the way, we were investigating this and we found this.
That's true. That is the fact pattern of how he came onto the scope of the FBI.
Yes.
So again, dude, Danger, Karma, Carlos, one each. If you'd kept your fly zipped, you might be not where you are today.
Well,
or Huma.
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing, too, is you have Hillary sending classified information to Huma, who forwards it along to Anthony Weiner so he could print it or something to that effect.
It's all basically, this is how arrogant Hillary Clinton is, and Huma Abedin as well. She's doing this just like she has a history of doing. She's doing this for her own convenience because she's the goddess of politics and she is above the law.
Rules just don't apply to her, and they never have.
Comey,
never have.
Damn him, he confirmed it.
Well, and that was the most frustrating thing that came out of that. He gave us all the facts and then turned around and said they're not doing anything about it. Never mind that it's a break of their protocol. Never mind the fact that it's supposed to go to a U.S. Attorney General to decide whether or not to prosecute.
Yeah, it's like stay in your lane. I'd like to read some more of that particular letter.
Oh, go right ahead, please.
Because these portions are highlighted. Compounding the error. Now, this is the letter from the Deputy Assistant, the Deputy Attorney General. Compounding the error, the director ignored another long-standing principle. We do not hold press conferences to release derogatory information about the subject of a declined criminal investigation. Further, in response to skeptical questions at a congressional hearing, the director defended his remarks by saying that his goal was to say what is true. What did we do? What did we find? And what do we think about it? But the goal of a federal criminal investigation is not to announce our thoughts at a press conference. The goal is to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to justify a federal criminal prosecution, then allow a federal prosecutor who exercises authority delegated by the Attorney General to make a prosecutorial decision. Common sense.
Right. But instead, and this is funny too because, like you said, any agent who is working for the FBI knows that you don't make that decision.
No.
It's made by a district
you stay
US federal attorney.
In your lane.
Yes. Yes.
So Comey at once decided, well, of course, it's all about him, and he became self-aggrandizing just at a time that he said he was apolitical. He was the most political beast damn near in all of D.C.
And I said this before the election. With Comey, I think Comey was trying to play politics. I think he was trying to set himself up for something else and failed fucking miserably.
Well,
I think he thought he was smarter than everyone else, and he'd been around that political
I'll
savviness.
tell you what, check and mate right there. I think he thought he was the smartest beast in the cage. Now, this letter goes on. It says, concerning his letter to Congress on October 28, 2016, the director cast his decision as a choice between whether he should speak, these are quotes, speak about the decision to investigate the newly discovered email messages or conceal it. Conceal is a loaded term that misstates the issue. When federal agents and prosecutors quietly open a criminal investigation, we are not concealing anything. We are simply following the long-standing policy that we refrain from publicizing non-public information. In that context, silence is not concealment. Stop. Let me tell you something about how the FBI functions. In a given case, each individual given case, if it's a fairly large case, there's a pre-investigation and then there's the investigation itself. Most people don't know that. The pre-investigation, all it does is collect sufficient material to determine whether or not they're going to open a real, honest-to-goodness, full-bang investigation into the case. That's been standard procedure for the FBI for years and years and years. The other policy is what occurs in the FBI building stays in the FBI building. What occurs...
It's like Vegas.
Yes, it is like Vegas. When agents speak to each other, you don't get out and talk about a particular case anywhere.
Nope.
Because you would have your knees cut off.
In theory.
In theory. So now you have a director...
As it's supposed to be, by the way.
Who Judge Napolitano made an excellent case for saying that he thought that James Comey was the new J. Edgar Hoover. I submit, yes, okay, right, but more dangerous. Infinitely more dangerous, because James Comey has access to technology that J. Edgar Hoover couldn't remotely touch.
Nope. There was nothing, not even in the ballpark. I brought up the analogy, I think, last week of taking the guy out of the Revolutionary War and showing him an airplane, right? That's exactly what happened with J. Edgar Hoover. The amount of technology that is going on right now, and how invasive, we talk about Facebook, we talked about Windows earlier and all these other things, how invasive all these technologies are in your life, and it's kind of easy to get around it sometimes. When you have Google and other places just giving this information to the federal agents, because when you sign up for all this stuff, it says, hey, we could turn this over at any time, and not necessarily needing a warrant. And we've seen that before, right? We talked about it last week with social media and Twitter. Amazingly, not the right people get turned over, but people get turned over all the time. You now have this, I should say, Comey, who is really the director during the biggest information gathering leap by these agencies.
Well, and that's what these two men had in common. It's no surprise for everyone to know that J. Edgar Hoover was an information hoarder. He hoarded information because information was power, and he knew everything about everyone. And if you wanted something from the FBI director then, what you had to do is you had to kiss the ring of J. Edgar Hoover. Now, multiply that mindset by the incredible information that we have now, including the rules and regulations of FISA. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 78, I think. That's where a FISA court comes from. There's a Section 702 of that, which says that essentially you don't need a warrant for a lot of things, coupled with the fact that I happen to know that as a grand jury is to a ham sandwich, so is a FISA court to a ham sandwich. And let me tell you, they haven't met a ham sandwich they don't like. And I may be talking out of school, but that is also a truism. Let me tell you another thing, because I still have people on the East Coast and the West Coast that I talk to. Once this happened, the media, the left wing, the American media maggots were saying, oh, the FBI agents were crying tears. No, they weren't. They were not crying tears. The people that were the admin from like the upper floors, shall we say, of the FBI building, yes, they were crying tears because their former, all the little that they'd been doing for the past 3 years, and by the way, Comey's only been in office for 3.5 years.
Right.
And he was telling everybody, well, I have a full 6 more years to go. No, you don't. Let me tell you, there was a massive collective sigh of relief in the FBI building when it was discovered that that corrupt individual, as was told to me by one particular person, who obviously I'm not going to name, there's a lot of agents, 10,000 agents, the bulk of which, when he was let go, fired yesterday, they all breathed a collective sigh of relief because they want the FBI to go back to being the premier, truthful, honest law enforcement agency that it was built to be.
Yes. Well, they actually, right. We've talked about the uselessness and usefulness of the FBI, mostly uselessness. We've talked about their history. We've talked about how they're not one of the constitutionally elected, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, the FBI used to know its role, and they used to do it fairly well. In the last 8 years, the role of the FBI has expanded greatly.
Well, and they used to know when to take a cup of shut the fuck up.
Right. And they used to really do a lot of work in the background. and only
Yes.
show up for
Hence,
press
see my
conferences.
previous statement.
Right. And now, ever since Loretta Lynch was AG, all of a sudden they're at the forefront of everything, and they're involved in everything. The Justice Department's doing this, and the FBI's doing that. When, like you said, they should just have a giant cup of shut the fuck up. Last but not least, we have 3 minutes to go.
Ooh, let me ask you this question. I'm going to tickle your brain, and I want everybody that's listening live, think about it. People who are in chat, write down your comments. And in podcast, when you listen to it in podcast, you think of what you would want. Name two. Can you think of two people that you would want to see as FBI director? My two are, one, Trey Gowdy, two, Condoleezza Rice.
Okay, so my only issue with Condoleezza is...
She wants to be NFL the dude.
No, I love Condoleezza Rice. I don't care if she... whatever Condoleezza Rice does, she's going to do amazingly. My only issue is I don't think she has the prosecutorial or legal experience per se, where I think Trey Gowdy would be a little bit better suited. Listen, I wanted Condoleezza Rice to run for president, so I am a huge Condoleezza Rice fan. I think she's an amazing human being.
Those are my two. What do you think?
When she spoke live at the California Republican Convention a couple years ago and we saw it, I was blown away. I mean, I was always...
She is one of the sharpest, smartest persons.
She's smart enough to stay out of politics.
I've heard.
That shows you how smart she is. She's smart enough to stay out of politics. So Trey Gowdy's on the list. I had some issues with some of the things that he did during Benghazi and everything, not being aggressive enough, not pushing enough. I think they knew they were barking up the wrong tree. Same thing with some of the Comey cross-examinations. I think they knew they weren't going to get the information, so he just kind of played it nice. And I get that.
It's political gaming, and really ask yourself, what do those commissions or those hearings do? Right. Do they have any teeth?
No.
And the answer is no, they don't have any teeth.
Like I said, I love Trey Gowdy. I think Trey Gowdy would be absolutely amazing. I've seen some other names get tossed around. Sheriff Clark is always.
I've heard of that, right?
Which I would be okay with Sheriff Clark too.
I would too.
Hell of a brain, good law enforcement brain on top of just good common sense brain. I think he would be exceptional at that job.
But see, being a good manager, as opposed to a supervisor, being a good manager is knowing a huge difference. Knowing whom to surround yourself with and how to pick the smart, intelligent individuals that can give you good advice.
Yes.
That's the key.
Let's see. Who else? Yeah, there's some other names that keep getting tossed around. And I've
heard Ted Cruz. I don't think he'd go for it.
I don't think he'd go for it. He'd be really good at it. But again, he's more of a judge material.
Yeah.
You kind of need somebody who's a good manager and has good law enforcement instincts. And they may be able to find that person inside the Justice Department. I've heard as recently today Chris Christie's name getting thrown around, which I know a lot of people hate Chris Christie, but when he was a prosecutor...
Yes, he was.
He was an exceptional prosecutor.
I've heard people say Giuliani.
Yep,
I've heard
Giuliani
people say Commissioner Bratton.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. So... And I have my back and forth issues with Bratton. I think Bratton overall was a good guy. He was in Boston, then New York. He did L.A. He's been around the block. But like you said, it's about being a manager.
You must be an accomplished manager.
But also have the background and have the credentials in that law enforcement field, because that's a big deal. You're leading one of the most invasive law enforcement agencies in the country, and it has to be run properly. We're up against the break.
Dave says Alan West.
I just don't think he's got the law enforcement background.
I don't think he'd be interested, actually.
I don't think. Oh no, I don't think he'd be interested either. I think he has a much brighter futures ahead of him than that.
But just interesting, because this guy McCabe,
break.
He's a fill-in.
Break.
We're
up against a break. Sorry,
right.
BZ.
Hey, that's all right.
I got to shut you off occasionally.
That's right. Just click it.
Every once in a while. We're up against the break here on the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network. We'll be back in 3.
If you're a pro, you know this is not efficient because you know there's a better way. And pros also know that the better way to save money is to go to Lowe's.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
White Mamba made a really interesting comment recently here in chat. He said,
doesn't he always?
He said, my application for the FBI was stalled since they don't agree to my halal diet and my 5 times day prayer timeouts.
Well, he doesn't get 5? He gets 5?
Well, so apparently he wasn't number 1 on the FBI hit parade for recruiting
How does he do
into Quantico and running the Yellow Brick Road.
How does he do it?
I
Bastard.
don't know.
He
He
is one
does.
lucky son of a bitch, I'll tell you what.
So Andrew McCabe now is the number 2 guy, the
Yes.
temp interim FBI director.
Yes.
And Andrew McCabe, as is pointed out in chat, he has some pretty big, serious issues himself.
Yes.
And this was another downfall of Comey, because the people that I spoke to said that when Comey made this particular decision regarding McCabe, they knew that their beloved FBI was well and truly broken. And that was this. McCabe's wife, Dr. Jill McCabe, took $700,000 from a PAC from Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, who's a great friend of Hillary Clinton. And at the time, if you recall, McCabe, his job was monitoring Hillary Clinton. Yet his wife is complicit in taking $700K, close to $1 million worth of cash for the lovely Democrats. And what did our great director Comey conclude? There is no conflict of interest.
None whatsoever.
So when the agents got wind of that, basically they said that was as far as they knew, their beloved FBI was in some serious, serious trouble.
Right. Well, it goes back to, oh, God, I can't remember his name now because I try to block it out. The former Attorney General before Loretta Lynch, who refused to prosecute himself.
Eric Holder.
Eric Holder. I try to actually block his name out of my head because
You're doing
of
a great
this.
job.
Thank you for so much.
Kudos to you for that, sir.
Same thing, right? I refuse to prosecute myself. Oh,
I exonerate me.
Shit! Can we do that now?
If it were only, huzzah, huzzah, if only we could do that for ourselves. You know, Shaun, that speeding ticket that you got last week,
Done.
I exonerate you of that.
And I exonerate you of everything.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
So here's what it comes down to. You have all these people here calling for a special prosecutor. Now, all of a sudden, involving the whole Russian connection and all these other things.
Right.
And I'm not even against it because I think that it'll prove once and for all and shut some people up because I don't think there's a connection there. I really just don't think so. But where were these people calling for a special prosecutor during, I don't know, Benghazi, gun walking?
Oh, yeah,
the
Fast
Clinton
and
Foundation,
Furious.
Fast and the Furious.
The IRS,
Clinton
Lois
email,
Lerner.
IRS targeting, yeah. Where was all the independent counsel there? Nobody was gave
Oh,
a shit.
come on. There was no there.
Right. And that's the part that bothers me the most. And not the most, but it's up on the top of the friggin' list.
Here's the other thing. When you have Alan Dershowitz, a leftist of the First Order, saying that a special prosecutor for something like this is beyond unnecessary,
Yes.
you know you're speaking out your butt.
I think Alan Dershowitz has fallen a little more right after the Obama administration.
Well, and he's seen what the leftists have done, are doing, and want to do in the future.
Yes. And I think even he as a liberal Democrat was like, this is the progressive movement, and they're a little bit.
That's the reason that I wanted to mention at the beginning of the show the fact that Kamala Harris is seriously, she's lining up her ducks already. She's speaking to people of a national venue. She's opening her scope to a much more broad audience, a wider audience, which tells me she's going for it.
Let me ask you this, BZ. Now that Comey's gone, Sessions is in, there's going to be some change. Do you, in your little magic 8-ball or in your magic lava lamp right there,
Which is
just
actually
flowing majestically right now.
It's doing very
now
well.
it looks like two little aliens trying to kill each other. Either way, when you stare into that magic little lava lamp that could be floating penises or aliens, do you see a lot of truth starting to come out that has been since hidden, or will it be business as usual?
I would like to think that things are going to change. I suspect it's going to be business as usual because history has proven that when we attempt to change things, that leftists immediately... here's an example. And White Mamba and I talked about this. I wouldn't mind having White Mamba back to talk about this sometime. Just as I believe there is fake news, I also believe, and these most recent federal judges have proven it to me, that there is fake law.
Oh, yes.
So if you can pull law out of your butt for whatever reason and not apply the rule of law and come up with crazy conclusions that by dint of their order affect the entire United States,
because
what's to stop those same people or people, like-minded individuals in that federal level to stop anything and everything that's coming in the future?
Well, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that you have plenty of people who misapply or inappropriately apply the law, hoping it gets appealed and approved all the way up to the Supreme Court just to make a name for themselves. And
yes.
So
did we know who that Washington judge was before? No. Did we know who that Hawaiian judge was before?
You do now.
No.
You do now. And so if you think just for personal gain it will get done, then for nefarious reasons it will absolutely be done more. And to say that there is not those out there with nefarious intent doing these sort of false prosecutions, misprosecutions, or non-prosecutions, you're out of your mind. You're absolutely out of your mind. Of course it's going to happen.
Here's an article that I'd love to bring to your attention.
Yes, sir.
And if I go to this site, not with any great regularity, but every once in a while it has something that really gigs me. And this is it. It's from BizPac Review. You guys can go online and look at it right now. The headline is, Judge Makes ACLU Lawyer Admit That If Hillary Had Issued the Same Trump Travel Ban, He'd Be Okay With It.
Mm-hmm.
And I fervently believe that's true. It's been shown, proven,
listen,
time and
the Trump
again.
travel ban... Carter did it in the 70s with Iranians. It's been done time and again. Everybody knows this. This is just political charade that's going on with these fucking judges. That's all it is.
Oh, so you're stealing my accent now.
Yeah.
Now you're saying charade.
I'm speaking in a language that only you can understand,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you
There's
very
nobody
much.
else here but you and I talking right now.
That's true.
Do you see Big Nose in the corner? No. It's
No,
just
because
me and you. We're right
This
here.
is a perfect day. Now,
right here.
Big Nose is going to be back next week, right?
Yes.
Now, this camera is going now over to him?
I haven't figured that out yet.
Okay. Because here's the deal. If you leave this camera here, next week, what you're going to be doing is seeing a lot of me doing that. And that's when Clint turns
Ducking.
to look at me.
Ducking.
I have to duck.
So I've already thought about it. Oh, yes. I've already thought about how I want to set it up, where even if I can't get him on camera, what I might do is just get a paper cut out of a nose and tape it further enough away so it looks like in your view there's just constantly a nose in it. That's my plan for that. That's my whole plan for that. It's funny, Mamba brought up that he's the unofficial ambulance chaser for your show. I did not get to tell you that I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to officially meet the ambulance chasing hack.
Did you really?
Yes.
So he's a real individual.
And I have to agree with Clint. He's a hell of a guy. I don't agree with him politically.
Cool.
He's a hell of a guy. But here's the thing that I like about him that may not come nostril cam. I love it, Dave in the chat. Here's the thing that I really liked about the ambulance chasing hack. The things you did disagree on, he did two amazing things that Democrats seem to forget how to do, but he remembers. He engages you and listens, and he has sound argument for his reasoning. I don't have to like it. I don't agree with it,
That's it. Just provide a rational, cogent argument.
But I just thought of that just because I just saw that in the chat room. He's a really nice guy. I'm not going to stop busting his balls. I'm sure
Nor
as
should
we
you.
speak, he's hanging around an emergency room somewhere waiting to throw a magnet on an ambulance because that's just who he is. But a really nice guy.
You know, that's a brilliant idea. An ID card or a business card as one of those cool magnets, that's a great idea.
I thought so.
This article goes on to say the ACLU lawyer wasn't having a good day. On Monday, the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the 4th Judicial District, sitting in Richmond, Virginia, heard oral arguments on an appeal from a Maryland U.S. District Court on President Donald Trump's temporary travel ban executive order. Although the panel appeared divided on the issue, ACLU attorney Omar Jadwat seemed to receive the brunt of pushback from Judge Paul Niemeyer on the issue of motive. Jadwat, the ACLU attorney, argued that the court should look beyond the wording contained within the four corners of the executive order and consider statements that candidate Trump made on the campaign trail about keeping Muslims out of the country. The argument now that he's making is the same one that White Mamba and I talked about, the argument that was being made in Washington and Hawaii. Trump's comments have nothing to do with the issue at hand. We already agreed upon that.
Right.
So, the article continues by saying, if a different candidate had won the election and then issued this order, I gather you would have had no problem with that, Judge Paul Niemeyer said to the lawyer. When Jadwat, the ACLU attorney, danced around the issue a bit, Niemeyer interrupted and restated his question. My particular question is, if some other candidate had won the election and issued this executive order that's before us, I gather you would have had no problem with that. Is that right? He asked. As the lawyer hesitated, then dodged the question by bringing up a separate issue not posed within the question, one could see his Adam's apple jump up and down out of nervousness. But the judge wasn't having any. We have a candidate who won the presidency, some candidate other than President Trump won the presidency and then chose to issue this particular order with whatever counsel he took, Niemeyer said. Do I understand that just in that circumstance, the executive order should be honored? Yes, Your Honor, I think in that case it could be constitutional, Jadwat admitted. This is what you have for attorneys now. These are what you have for judges. Just for a brief, shining moment, there was just a sliver of honesty and clarity out of this ACLU attorney, but he did not wake up that day to make that decision and to make those statements. Only because he was pinned down like a bug or a frog that you carved open in your high school biology class on one of those black wax trays, and you just kind of opened the bug up. And that's how that judge staked down that ACLU attorney.
Yes.
But this is the common thinking. This is what passes now for what I call fake law.
Absolutely. Again, one of the biggest things that is a problem in our nation, and we've talked about this time and again ad nauseum, is the abuse of our legal system, both by judges and attorneys and by frivolous claims. You and I have said a bazillion times how badly we need tort reform. I like some of the countries where it's the, when you falsely accuse somebody, you end up having to pay for everything if you're found not to be in the right.
Well, you want tort reform? All it takes is two words. And this should have been done decades ago. Two words. Loser pays.
Loser pays is exactly what.
That's all you need. You don't need a huge law. Two words.
Have you ever had something stuck in your head and it just wouldn't come out?
Or a brainworm?
Oh, dude. I was trying to think of loser pays the entire time I was coming up when I was talking about that.
Just for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the brains of BZ and Sackhead Shaun melded. Just for a moment.
And it was scary.
It was.
And kittens died all over the
planet. You
planet.
don't want to come in here into this cavern.
Kittens died everywhere. It was horrific. It was horrific.
It was.
I just want to close out Comey because I know we got to move along here really quick. Lastly, with the whole Comey firing. People who are outraged by this and talked about how it's never happened before seem to forget the last president to fire the sitting FBI director.
I know.
I'm going to go with the hairy little man over in the corner. Go.
Let's see. It was President William Jefferson Clinton in
Yes.
1993
El
who
Cigarillo.
fired William Sessions.
See.
William Sessions was I know all about William Sessions. William Sessions was a former judge who got appointed as FBI director. Bill Clinton fired him for political reasons, but in truth, because I happen to know about those sorts of things, William Sessions was a POS as a judge, and he was even a worse POS as an FBI director who was lazy and had absolutely no interest in running the FBI itself. His job was to go up into his office, sit in the corner, and let everybody else do the job.
Right. And it doesn't matter why he got fired, really.
But he did.
But, right. Short of criminal activity, the reason is it doesn't matter. Right?
But see, did we hear the exact same things that we're hearing now? That that was a Nazi-like move.
Yes.
That William Jefferson Clinton decapitated
everybody
the FBI.
Everybody turned around and said, "Oh, that's his right as a president to do so." Oh, okay.
But see, people are making Comey to be a god,
No.
as I said last night
False prophet.
on my radio show. The FBI is not one individual. The FBI director is not the FBI.
Yep.
They are interchangeable. They're like underwear.
Yeah.
They come and go.
Right. The position's needed, not the person.
The position is for 10 years. FBI.
Right, but the position's needed, not the person. The person doesn't really matter. You could swap them out every 6 months if you wanted to.
Yeah, but
it'd be
they're
horrible for morale, but you could do it.
they're in there for 10 years, and then they go. Most agents are in for at least 20 until the mandatory retirement age of 56.
So I want to get your reaction. We got to get away from Comey.
I know, we beat the hell out of him. Not to say he didn't deserve every
I was
blow.
going to say, we dedicated
He
almost
deserves
50 minutes to
everything
him, and
that he
he
got.
deserves everything he got. I agree. Moving on, we'll stay in the field of law enforcement. The LAPD yesterday took a new approach.
When you told me about this at the beginning of the show, my mouth started watering and I had saliva running in my beard. I had to go into the bathroom and get some toilet paper to soak it all up because it was so glorious. You got to tell us about this.
So yesterday in, what city was it? It's just outside LA. The LAPD were called to assist another city, LAPD, and their SWAT team. It was a home invasion where the guy took a hostage. The suspect took a hostage. And the hostage eventually got to get out and run away, but then he barricaded himself inside. He was continuously shooting at law enforcement outside. LAPD SWAT showed up. It was in the city of Sunland, California. LAPD SWAT showed up because of the angle. They were going to eventually have to make entry because he was still actively engaging law enforcement. He wasn't just barricaded inside, hiding. They tried smoking him out, flashbangs, the whole 9 yards. Nothing stuck. So then they went kind of old school, actually, because this used to happen a lot more in the 60s and 70s than it happens now.
This was so great.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but back in the day, it was not uncommon for law enforcement to use a helicopter platform to engage a suspect.
We didn't, but I had heard of it being done.
Yeah, I have heard of it being done as well. So the LAPD decides, hey, this guy needs to be neutralized right away before he hurts somebody else. As they flash the front of the house, he goes out through the back window, still gun in hand. From what I understand, they had a sniper in a helicopter not far away. That sniper was given the opportunity and given permission to fire as needed, and he did. And he shot and killed the suspect, who then rolled down the hill out of the house from a helicopter platform. I have to applaud them. I know some people are maybe are going to think that I shouldn't applaud them or whatever.
Oh, hell yes.
This guy took a hostage. He was actively trying to kill other people. He needed to be put down. He made his choices in life. Nobody forced him into that. He needed to be put down.
That guy, whoever that guy is, needs to be put into the Snipers Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
He should get the Carlos Hathcock Award. Now, for those people who don't know who Carlos Hathcock is, he was known as Gunny. He was a Marine sniper.
Yeah.
And he was the guy that went in and shot General Giap in Vietnam in a highly, highly contested event. His longest, think of this. You've seen a 50 caliber machine gun, have you not?
Yes.
And it shoots a horrendous bullet. If you're in the camera, a 50 cal round is about that long.
Yeah.
He had a 50 caliber gun that he shot from 1 mile, put it on single shot, not automatic mode, and at the range of 1 mile, shot a Vietnamese guy and killed him on a dike.
Yes.
From 1 mile with not a sniper rifle,
but a 50 cal.
A 50 cal set on single action.
So, if I recall, too, he was also the same sniper who spent about 3 days stalking in.
Oh, yes.
At a base, literally moving.
He would move an inch or two at a time.
Yeah, and just stay there and wait.
And to think of something like that, of somebody having the patience to do something like that, is brain glazing. How many people would have the ability to do that?
I can't sit still now. And look at all the stuff I have to do.
Yes.
I still can't sit still.
So then knowing that, and then you telling us now the tale of that particular sniper moving, firing from a moving object, and anybody that's ever taken a helicopter ride knows
constantly.
that
It's not smooth.
They're not smooth at all.
Choppy,
they're rather bouncy, and
Yep.
it all depends on what the air was like up at the time.
Yes.
With the turbulence, and he's firing through an open door, which means the wind is coming in.
Well, and you're also getting the downwash from the rotors.
And the incredible noise, which is a huge distraction.
Yeah. I can't even begin to tell you.
Yes.
The
to
amount of-
make a shot like that.
And the house is at the top of a canyon in a hot place, so now you have the heat rising up
Yes.
the canyon, right? You have to make adjustments. A lot of adjustments. I'm not even going to pretend to understand it all. How's that? There's a lot of things I could cite. You have to get your dope right. There's a lot of things that go into this. And, you know, I was saying in the chat room, Mary, I think our good friend Mary Brockman said, wow, it's kind of a risky shot. And I said, yeah, you know, with the advances in scopes and technology, depending on the distance, I don't know exactly what the distance was. You now have helicopters that have auto hover that can stay within a couple feet of itself automatically. Or if you have a skilled pilot, it'll be better than auto hover will ever be, from what I understand. And you're taking a shot on it. If you looked at the screen, if you looked at the video and the still shots, it was the back of the house was a cinder block. So he had a good backdrop. It was a light building, and the guy was wearing dark pants.
See, because
everything was set up for a good shot, and it was taken and executed amazingly. So my hat's off.
Oh yeah. See, and that's incredibly important. What cops call a backstop.
Yep.
So as you delineated right there, the backstop was appropriate in terms of, you know, possible penetration of this bullet, a ricochet, where would it go? With a good backstop like that, then that's where the green light comes from.
Yes. Yeah, because now you don't have to worry about pass through or miss.
Correct.
From what I've heard. I don't know. Am I close?
No, that's absolutely correct.
Okay, because I've heard stuff about this.
That's absolutely
just in
correct.
passing, I've heard stuff like this.
Dave Milner said he flew in a Bell 47 one time. The Bell 47 is the old classic helicopter with the Lycoming engine that looks like a flying light bulb.
Yes.
That's old.
That's old.
That's from Kenneth Tobey and the original black and white TV series called Whirlybirds.
Okay. I'm going to stop you there for a second.
Yes.
And just say, God damn, BZ, how do you do that?
Do you know? Here's the
If there's an
the
award-
bitter irony of this. Do you know how Kenneth Tobey died?
I'm going to guess he walked into a helicopter blade.
Kenneth Tobey was the actor, along with a couple of Vietnamese kids, in the John Landis movie, who was killed when an explosion went off, and a helicopter that was coming into the frame got the pilot was distracted by the explosion, and as the helicopter came down, it decapitated him. So Kenneth Tobey went from Whirlybirds on TV to Whirly Heads.
Oh God, I actually remember that story. That was actually horrific.
That was after that John Landis really couldn't get any movies for a long time.
Yeah, and I forget what movie that was now that I'm trying to think of it.
It was The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it was The Twilight Zone.
How do I know that?
Because you're BZ and you remember every single damn thing. It grosses me out some days, BZ. I'm just gonna tell you that it's just weird. You're a very weird little man.
Okay, ask me what I had for dinner tonight.
No, because you won't remember shit.
That's right.
You were looking for your glasses for an hour before the show, and they were on your face. Folks, we're up against a break. Oh, when we come back, we're going to touch on a bunch of different little things to wrap up the show here. The last 30 minutes of the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network.
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining us. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Shaun from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Mim from Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds. Join your friends from SHR Media at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada, July 19th through the 22nd for 3 amazing days of liberty-oriented discussion, investment advice, and the Anthem Film Festival. It's our big 10th anniversary, featuring keynote speaker William Shatner and Freedom Fest favorites, including Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Lee Edwards, David Boaz, Doug Casey, Dinesh D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Grover Norquist, Peter Schiff, and many more. Don't miss out. Register at freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all-caps code SHR Media.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Shaun, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet. Via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show, where seriously, history does not need to be researched. I just have to look across the table, and I'm able to just get the answers I seek from the Bloviating Zeppelin, BZ. Bloviatingzeppelin.net, by the way, is his website.
Thank you very much.
He's
Thank
also
you.
on every Tuesday and Thursday right here on SHR Media
Thank you.
Network. This time slot.
Thank you very much.
Pacific 11 on the East Coast. And just having a great
Going to have a
time.
great show tomorrow with Patrick Dollard.
Yes, you do.
And Patrick, as per normal, I'm sure he'll clam up and not tell us anything about
Nothing
what
at
he's
all.
truly thinking.
Nothing at all whatsoever. Also, Jersey Joe, Reaver of Common Sense, he's just on a little hiatus. He'll be back this coming week, a week from today, as a matter of fact.
Oh, is he on a vacation?
Just a little bit.
Did he go to Aruba?
I don't know where he
Just
went.
like Dave went.
It's amazing how all these guys disappear at the same time, right?
Ask-
Now, all of a sudden, Clint's gone and Jersey Joe's gone. And Ken was off tonight. Melanie was filling in for Ken tonight. So
Ken was off? Is he in Aruba?
I'm just saying, You start looking at what's going on here, and there's some shenanigans going on.
I'm beginning to sense so.
So starting off tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., you're going to have The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, and then Jersey Joe Spot, it'll be a replay. You got Unpleasant Blind Guy, The Right Guys, The Conservative Syndicate, and then, of course, whatever your name is.
Right. As Ken is wont to say, the Berserk Bobcat Salon. Where, of course, I get my hair coiffed.
Beautiful hair.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
So, in chat, Dave Milner says, Mark, slightly more vibrato on the Elvis voice.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, okay.
Or we could do a Monty Python.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
I was
The penguin on the telly's exploded.
I loved Monty Python.
Monty Python is fabulous.
First of all, the movies were great. The Flying Circus was amazing. Monty Python had some great skits. The Dead Parrot was always one of my favorites. It's just all around and awesome.
There's a video going around, and now that reminds me, I might play it for the show tomorrow. John Cleese, who was 1/5 of Monty Python, has and is still living. Graham Chapman has passed away, and a few of the others. Eric Idle is still around and doing well. John Cleese has a great video where he talks quite seriously about what he believes of Islam in the UK. And you wouldn't think that he would be saying some of the things that he does. I think I'll play that tomorrow. That'd be a good video. It's about 5 minutes or so. Make some good audio.
And, it's funny, too, because John Cleese isn't exactly a right-wing person.
Oh, no.
He's a big lefty.
Oh, yes.
And even he's saying it, and, a lot of other people are talking about it in Europe right now. And now with the new French president being elected, France is going to be gone in a couple years. It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be what Germany. It's just going to get worse. I just cannot even imagine.
Well, as a lot of people were saying, Nigel Farage was saying, now, thank you. The person that's going to truly be running France is Angela Merkel.
Yes.
Thanks for giving Angela Merkel even more power than she had now.
Yep.
Simultaneously, the UK is smart enough to have enabled Article 50, and basically what they're saying, Theresa May is going along with it, and they're setting the procedures up to actually exit by 2019.
Hurry.
That's a wonderful thing. But see, because they're leaving, the EU is saying that, by the way, Britain, if you think that you're going to have the same economic relations with us, you're not. My guess would be there are going to be sanctions, and they're going to try to make the UK's life as hellish as possible.
Well, and you know what? Let them. Because all they're going to do is just show you what the EU really is, which is a giant bureaucratic organization with no oversight, no overhead, running other countries that they have no right fucking being in. Well, that's what it comes down to.
And everything comes from Brussels. And by the way, Mr. Macron, if you think that your terror incidents are going to stop in France,
it's only going to get worse.
No, it's not going to happen. Your unemployment, general unemployment in France is 10%. For young youths. In France, it's 23%. The unemployment for the refugees, air quotes, refugees, is 50 to 70%. All they have to do, by the way, those youths, to completely eliminate that is to step across a little boundary line into Germany, and the unemployment rate plummets.
Huge.
Then the youth of Germany are much greater employed. Now, why would that be?
That's weird. I you know what? I don't know science.
Well, she blinded me with it one time.
She blinded me with science.
Is that what happened to Dave? That's why he's so scientific. Dave knows everything.
Dave is also a very scientific mind.
By the way, if you're not listening to the Unpleasant Blind Guy, Dave Miller's Unpleasant Blind Guy, and he puts on one new show a week, and you can go to YouTube, Google his name, go to YouTube, and you can see all of his shows. You need to be listening to Dave Milner, the Unpleasant Blind Guy, because he is one sharp cookie. Cookie, comma, sharp, one each.
And he's also much more pleasant than
that's right.
Dictates.
As I say, the Unpleasant Blind Guy who isn't.
Yeah, exactly. So what else are we going to go to? We got We got about 22 minutes left, BZ.
I'd love
I want you to pick.
I'd love to have you tell people about what's happening in Illinois, or perhaps what isn't happening in Illinois.
This is actually a really cool story, and I'm going to pull it up here just so I can cite everything appropriately. The top prosecutor in McLean County took a stand in Illinois. Interim State Attorney Ron Dozier announced a policy change that he said has been in the works since he was appointed in December. In the 4-page prepared statement, and this is from centralillinoisproud.com, Dozier said his office will no longer prosecute offenders of certain Illinois gun laws. Now, while that may sound a little scary at first, let me continue. Those laws include a part of the Firearms Owner Identification Card Act, unlawful use of a firearm, aggravated unlawful use of a firearm, and provisions that have been part of the few U.S. Supreme Court cases on gun laws. Again, let me continue. We will no longer use the power and authority of our office to criminalize and punish decent, otherwise law-abiding citizens who choose to exercise their rights granted to them by the Second Amendment of the Constitution to keep and bear arms in defense of themselves and their family. When he's talking about unlawful use of a weapon, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, etc., there have been people who have been in righteous shoot situations who have been prosecuted under the old Illinois laws, and especially in Chicago, where you couldn't own a weapon or your CCW was not recognized if you went into city limits, who have been involved in shoot situations that were prosecuted because they were in violation of their CCW by breaking that local statute. He is no longer going to begin prosecuting those people. He said they're based in emotion. It's an emotional response. He says he understands why people don't like guns and feels uncomfortable for them, but, as I said, they are based in emotion, and that's an emotional response. The statement also explains, so far the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois have done everything possible to
obfuscate.
Wow, that's a big word. And ignore the Supreme Court's substantive ruling. Dozier said the High Court has consistently upheld the Second Amendment, and he grew tired of Illinois not following suit. And it goes on, and you can read it at centralillinoisproud.com.
Here's the funny thing. Illinois refuses to acknowledge the obvious, which is, number one, it does have a gun law problem.
Yes.
But the gun law problem that it has is not with law-abiding citizens who do take the time to fill out the requisite forms and attempt to abide by the law. The people that are breaking the law are the criminals, once arrested, and then... Here's one of the biggest things about Chicago. By the way, it's attained huzzah, huzzah. Isn't this a wonderful stat to have now? Let's see. It's May, let's see, what is today? The 10th, right? Okay, Chicago already has 200 homicides.
They have their bicentennial.
And it's not even the middle of the year yet. Isn't that great? Now, there's an accomplishment. But what Illinois fails, I think purposely refuses to do, is to prosecute the people who are committing the crimes.
Yes.
Who would they be? Well, I'm going to go out and say it. Young urban black males.
Well, anyone they deem to be victims.
So there's the people that are committing the gun crime, but it's not politically correct to phrase it in such a fashion, and they're not prosecuting. Now, what did we do in California, in East Palo Alto in the 90s, when we had East Palo Alto, people don't know this, East Palo Alto at one time in the 90s was the gang capital of California.
Yes.
Not Los Angeles, not San Francisco, not a major city. It was East Palo Alto. The gangs were running rampant. And the feds came in, and they created Operation Trigger Lock. I was a part of that. I worked that. And what we did is when we arrested people, because I was part of a task force, and we actually went into East Palo Alto and arrested people on gun crimes. And then once we had a good case on them, we handed the case over to the feds, and they prosecuted federally for gun crimes under BATF then, not BATF-E as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the federal government can help. And we reduced gun crime quite a bit. The 90s were rampant.
Excuse me.
For gangs and drugs and guns.
All over the country.
All over the country in the 90s. You know, when people come to me and say, oh my God, I have a horrible caseload Don't cry to me. You don't know what a horrible caseload is. When I was working robbery, I had charge of sort of Eastern Sacramento as a robbery detective. And just as one individual in 93, let's say, for example, my average caseload in a relatively small area of the county, I would get anywhere from 40 to 50 new, fresh cases on my desk every month. Now, there were 6 people in robbery at the time. Multiply that number times 6, and that's the number of robberies that were occurring in the county of Sacramento. Multiply that times 58 counties in the state of California. Multiply that times 440 individual cities in the state of California. And for the 90s, you might have just a bit of a grasp as to how rampant crime was. These detectives, these deputies, these officers today, they have no fucking idea what a caseload is.
Well, you talk about, not properly prosecuting, and a state going
That's a conscious decision.
Right. And in Boston, this just actually played a role in a double homicide. In 2014, a guy by the name of Bampumim Texera was arrested for bank robbery. He passed a note. He got convicted last year, and as a result, he did 364 days for bank robbery as of last year. He was released, and 2 nights ago, he gained access to a home occupied by 2 doctors who are engaged. And they still haven't released all the information yet. I know more is coming out probably than what I have right now. But the long and short is that he killed both of them, slashed their throats very, very brutally. And then when law enforcement arrived, he began shooting at them. And he was shot. He's still alive, unfortunately. But because of the reduced sentence, he was able to be out. Now, he was a permanent resident, so immigration isn't really a question going on here. But yeah, because he wasn't doing the full sentence for bank robbery, he did less than a year. And when in Massachusetts, you do less than a year, you do it in a county jail. You don't do it in the big boy prison.
Yep.
It's essentially...
That's a logical state for you. Now in California, we have people doing rape time and manslaughter time in county jails, not prisons.
Yes.
And that's a story for another time.
But again, if this guy was appropriately incarcerated, as he should have been, by the way, on a federal level, he should have been prosecuted federally. Bank robbery is actually a federal issue. Most people don't know that, and we talked about it before. Because the FDIC insures the money in that bank, it becomes a federal issue.
I worked for Squad 3, and Squad 3's job was to do nothing but banks.
But what the feds do in order to be sometimes decent partners and other times get out of having to deal and house these people is they push it over to the city or county and say, hey, you guys take this and charge them with your local statutes. In this case, that happened, and they allowed him to plea down. He was out of jail and plenty of time to murder these 2 people and then shoot at law enforcement as they responded. When I talk about incarcerating people, and people say, oh, you guys America has more people incarcerated than this and that and the other thing, blah, blah. Yeah, you know what? We do have some bad people.
Sure we do.
And because of the success of some people, you're always going to have the influx of bad people, right? Anytime you have somebody doing really well, somebody's going to try to take it away. And that's an unfortunate reality. But the simple fact of the matter is I'm a big believer that you build more prisons and then you house these people. And if prison became prison again and not what it's become now, which is this rest home for criminals to get in shape and eat better and learn and hone their criminal craft for another 2 or 3 years before they go back out in the street and do worse things than they did prior. If prison was actually prison like it used to be, where people did not want to go back, you may not have these problems.
Now, good news or bad news?
I'll take the bad first. I want to end the show on a good note.
Okay. Bad news is that is not the current prevailing philosophy of corrections across the entire United States. The philosophy of build more prisons and jails, The philosophy currently is if you do that, all that will happen is you'll fill them with people who are wrongly incarcerated, wrongly arrested, and wrongly imprisoned. Trust me, that is the current philosophy, especially, for God's sake, in the state of Phonacalia. It's taken me about a month to write, and I'm probably going to have it done in another week or so, but I'm going to have a post, a lengthy post, about the issues of law enforcement in California and the larger overarching issues regarding law enforcement all across the United States. They're at a crisis point right now.
Yes.
And it's not just this department, it's not just your department or my department, it's everyone's department. People wonder why crimes are skyrocketing, starting to really explode. I'm going to tell you exactly why. And it's not just one issue. It's a number of issues that I will strictly delineate. And I've been researching this for a long time, to the point where I'm trying to see if I can get Heather McDonald, the author of the book The War on Cops, onto the show. And if you haven't read it yet, The War on Cops, what an incredible book. And it lays out quite fundamentally the reasons that cops are under fire these days.
Yeah. Well,
literally and figuratively.
Right. And again, last night, in Boston, or 2 nights ago, they show up to investigate a potential disturbance, and they get shot at. And you look at all the different cops that have died over the last year and a half, 2 years, and what it stemmed from. Politics is the majority of it. People don't want to admit that, but leftist politics is the biggest part of it. And the political leaders. We talk about the damage that Obama did to law enforcement in this country. We talk about the damage that others Democratic elites have done to law enforcement in this country. We've seen what the press has done to law enforcement in this country, and it's completely despicable. And then the other side of it is when you have prisons where it's supposed to be to pay your debt to society, not rehab people. That's just ridiculous. The original idea of prison was you went there to get off the street if you were dangerous and to pay your debt to society. That's what you owed society for your crimes.
Well, I said everything is cyclical at the beginning of the show, and it's true. Crime went down in the early 2000s because, at least in Phonacalia, the three strikes law, which was pretty much emulated in numerous jurisdictions across the United States, and then the broken window theory, mass policing, stop and frisk, etc., the right things to do, the proper way to conduct yourself as law enforcement, that's responsible for the great reduction in crime. That's the exact thing that leftists are attempting and are being successful at removing right now.
Well, and the other thing, too, that gets lost in law enforcement is I love it when I see all of these leftist groups throw out the term community policing. And they have no idea what it is. And they also have no idea of the fact that it is a completely antiquated and old platform, and that it has not changed with society. It has not moved into society. It's also the same people that just because they see a police officer in some sort of tactical gear want to cry police state. The amount of respect that's gone away for our laws and the people who enforce them is absolutely ridiculous. And when I talk about prisons, I have a really good friend of mine who's a prison officer out here, and just some of the stories that you hear about what these prisoners get now and how, it's called the Department of Rehabilitation now. It's not even called the Bureau of Prisons or the California
it's
State
CDCR.
Yep.
California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
Right.
It went from CDC to CDCR.
Right, and that's and all these different programs that they're instilling now, and people coming in and they're playing tennis with felons, and underwater basket weaving, and here are these people that have raped and murdered and killed at some of the most horrific prisons in California, and they get treated better than you and I to everything else, and then they're released early for quote unquote nonviolent crimes, and then they go and reoffend, usually violently, as we're starting to see the path is taken. I'm thinking of the two police officers that were killed, or the police officer that was killed in Southern California about a month ago.
Right.
And I want to say it was Visalia, but I think it was a different department. I was probably wrong. And when that chief came out, furious, talking about how the early release program essentially caused the death of his officer, or led to it. as a mitigating factor. By the way, I want to see if the
Oh, I'm
family-
sorry, that was Whittier.
Whittier, thank you, Whittier, not Visalia. I want to see if that family sues the state for that early release, because you could argue that they hold a hand in what happened. But you turn around and you talk about how we're supposed to be a nation of laws, and you talk about these people. You have to respect our First Amendment. You have to respect this. You have to respect that. But the one thing with the left that we see all the time is it never goes both ways. There's no respect the other way. There's no respect for the victim. I can tell you right now in Sacramento County, if you walked up to me right now and punched me in the face, you would not be prosecuted. You'd not be prosecuted. They call it interest of justice because it costs too much money. It's not worth it. And they don't want to put somebody behind bars. The county jail's full.
Well, the DA has to triage every case.
Yep.
In a much more very strict pattern. Don't get me wrong. Law enforcement isn't perfect. I will be the first person to admit that.
But no career is perfect. There's no career that's perfect.
Right, but the threshold of responsibility is much higher, much more pointed for law enforcement officers because they have the powers of arrest and they wield deadly force.
Of course.
So when that particular officer, for example, shot Walter Scott, and you looked at that video, and I didn't want to look at that video in isolation. I didn't want to say that that particular officer was guilty right off the bat because I didn't see the whole video,
right,
and I don't know the facts in totality. But taken to court, that officer was found guilty, and I say that's right. That's right. Officers that are guilty of things like that, yes, they should go away.
Yes. Well,
because they give a bad rap to everyone else.
And it doesn't even have to do with that. To me, it has to be held to the same standard, right? You get held to that same standard as anybody else. If they murdered somebody, they go to prison. And that's how it is. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And you know what? Just about every cop that I know, and I know a good number of cops, obviously, like you do as well, would agree with that. All those people do is make their lives more miserable.
Exactly. So I'm not attempting to be a one-sided individual by saying that cops are always right, because they're not. But there's a great amount of discretion that we used to give our police that we don't give them so much anymore, but they still require that discretion. They still require that respect, because without them, without the military, without people that are willing to sacrifice, without firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, soldiers, law enforcement officers, what do we have in this nation?
Nothing.
That means that, for example, in the streets of Berkeley last month, Americans were on their own. We watched Berkeley PD
You have a government abandoning its people.
stand back and allow crime to occur directly in front of their faces. That was beyond reprehensible.
Like I said.
And you mentioned BAMN. The mayor of Berkeley
Tied directly to
is a member of By Any Means Necessary,
Yes.
which is an Antifa group. And these are the individuals that you have running left-wing cities. So it should be no shock that you have policies in the open and subcurrent policies, unstated policies, that are occurring today all across the United States.
Mm-hmm. Folks, the work isn't done yet. You know, that's something that we need to remember in this country. There's a lot more that needs to be done. And the rule of law being such an important part, not overuse of law, but the rule of law being such an important part of our society, yet it's vastly ignored. And it's demonized and destroyed. And you look at all these different incidents that come out and how the suspect's automatically the victim and the cop's automatically the suspect. Even now still. And you have the press who consistently plays the worst part of that tape without showing the totality of it, which kills me.
That's absolutely correct. But failure to obey the law has consequences.
Yes.
Texas Governor Abbott...
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Texas Governor Abbott signed a bill the sanctuary cities law that actually puts teeth, and it's sad that it had to go there, that it actually makes law enforcement responsible for enforcing the law. How sad is that? Here's another particular case. Without the rule of law, you have something like this from the San Diego Tribune. Headline, DUI suspect in hit-and-run crash that left boy 6 years old badly hurt as he was coming back from Disneyland, of all places. Mm-hmm. Suspect, who's Mexican, I don't mind telling you that, was deported 15 times.
Yep. And once again,
there are consequences for not following the law.
But after the second time, I'll give you through two. Third time, he should have went back on a catapult.
But, as I say, it's fornicalia, and no one cares around here.
Yep, nobody cares. The suspect's the victim. Folks, that's it for the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great job, great show. I can't wait to see the video. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the video.
The video is up on YouTube. We will be back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast.
Berserk Bobcat Saloon tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern with Pat Dollard, and we're going to rip some butt.
Of course you will. Sackhead Clint should be back next week. I will be out next week.
What?
Yeah, I got to take the week off. I'll tell you why later.
Okay.
I'll be out next week. But make sure you check out all the great shows. The Unpleasant Blind Guy's back, so there should be more knowledge being dropped here shortly. Of course, Jersey Joe, look for him a week from today at his normal time slot. All of our good friends at TECN, make sure you check out The Exceptional Conservative. He will be back tomorrow night.
Aruba is making a lot of money.
Aruba's making a ton of money. We will be back next week. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you for joining us.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Shaun and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work there, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.